Dear brothers and sisters, while we are only 2 weeks away from the conclusion of the month of Ramadan, I want to take this time as part of today's khutbah and talk something which is a strategy that's used by an effective strategy used by effective Muslims. A simple strategy used by effective Muslims. Let's put it that way. First, let me state something that is very obvious for you and I, which is the high level of Iman that we all have experienced during the course of month of Ramadan. As we were progressing the month of Ramadan, you and I have all experienced the increasing level of Iman. We enjoyed it, then the month has concluded. Now we are at the declining part of that Iman going down. And this experience is not an unusual experience for us. You and I have been experiencing this and year over year, and we are kind of set to expect this experience. And today I want to talk about a strategy that might help you and I to break this habit of going through this cycle of just increasing Iman just in the month of Ramadan and then loosening it. And inshallah, let's conclude by understanding why we need to break away this habit of what we are experiencing year over year just in the month of Ramadan. First, let's talk about, so the strategy is just 2 simple steps. The first step is paying attention to establishing a positive ritual. So outside month of Ramadan, I'm not talking about outside the month of Ramadan. And so in the month of Ramadan, we try to do as much as ibadah as possible, which is good. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the good deeds for the whatever efforts that we put in, and may He accept the efforts that we put in. Now, outside the month of Ramadan, what should we do? The first step that we should be try doing starting today is establishing a positive ritual. What I mean by positive ritual is really a baby step. So for example, if you are praying, let's say 4 rakahs sunnah on a daily basis. So can you increase that to 2 by adding 2 more rakahs sunnah, whatever prayer is convenient for you? Just taking salah as an example. Or let's say you are giving a donation of so much amount every month. Can you add just $5 more donating to the masjid, for example? The donation box is right here on a weekly basis on the day of Jummah, for example. So taking a small step, I'm not talking about a big step. And doing that consistently is not only important, it actually looked to be more beloved in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We understand that from what Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself said, وَأَنَّ أَحَبَّ الْأَعْمَالِ أَدْوَمُهَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَإِنْ قَلَّ. The most beloved deed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most regular and consistent. And here's the key word, even if it was few. So Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not say that most beloved deed for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most that's done, the most amount of deeds that's done. That's not the case here. So it's not the quantity that matters to Allah. It's the quality, it's the consistency, it's the persistence that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking at. So that is the most beloved deed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you take 2 people, just a hypothetical example, one person is randomly praying 40 rakats of nafil prayer once in a while. The other person is consistently praying just 2 rakats of sunnah every day. Then from this hadith, we can clearly understand that the most beloved deed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is from the one that coming from the person who is doing it consistently, even though it was few. So that is the very first step. This hadith was narrated by Aisha radiallahu anha, documented in Sahih al-Bukhari, hadith number 6464. So that's the very first step that I want you and I to think about. What baby step can you and I take starting today? Starting today, what can we take? What can we do? What positive ritual can we establish such that it will help us to do consistently? It's not about doing today and forgetting about a day later or 2 days later. So what can we do something that can that will stick with us for a longer period of time. And the second step is stretching. Once you establish this positive ritual, the next step would be to stretch it. In my previous example of 2 rakah sunnah, once you established it after a few weeks, once you feel comfortable, once it becomes your second nature, as much as the brushing that we do every morning, right? When we get up in the morning, we don't feel like it's taking a lot of effort to go and brush in the bathroom, because we are trained to do that. It's become a habit for us. So we have to develop some ibadah as a habit as well. So once you establish that habit of the 2 rakah in my previous example, it doesn't have to be that. You can just pick whatever is comfortable for you, whatever is doable for you. Once you establish that ibadah, then the next step is to stretch it. So when you stretch it, you don't want to overstretch it, right? That's where a lot of people do the mistake, right? They feel good one day, then they want to do a lot of ibadah on that particular day that they feel good. Then eventually they get to a point that they're exhausted and that they just give up. So it doesn't work like that. So you have to keep continuing to take the baby steps over and over again and keep stretching until you get to the comfort level. Then keep stretching, then keep stretching. So that's what we have to do. Again, this is also from Sunnah of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, narrated by Anas bin Malik radiyallahu anhu. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam once entered Masjid Al-Nabawi. As he was entering, he noticed that there was a rope hanging between 2 pillars. When he noticed it, he asked, "What's happening here? Why is there a rope hanging between 2 pillars?" Then the companions told him, "This rope belongs to Zainab radiallahu anha, and she holds on to this rope as she was praying in the night. And when she gets tired, when she gets sleepy, she doesn't want to stop praying. So she then holds on to the rope to continue praying." When Rasulullah heard this, if you think he advised others, "Oh, look what Zainab is doing, you all have to learn from her." If that's what you think he said, you are wrong. Instead, Rasulullah said that, "Don't do this. Remove this rope, and you should pray as long as you feel active. And then when you get tired, you should sit down and take rest." So that is the advice that Rasulullah was giving to Zainab radiallahu anha as well as for us. Right? We don't want to overstretch. That is not the way of Sunnah. We want to do as much as we can, but we have to keep putting the effort to do a little more on a daily basis. You have to keep on stretching, but take the baby steps. Don't overstretch. This hadith in Sahih Bukhari, hadith number 1150. Another advice, not for complicating things and overstretching things. When Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam became the president of the Islamic nation that was headquartered in Medina, he used to send companions to the neighboring regions to teach Islam to the people that did not know about Islam. So once he was sending Mu'adh and Abu Musa radiallahu anh to Yemen to teach Islam to the people of Yemen. As he was sending these 2 companions, what advice do you think he gave to these companions? Do you think he gave a big lecture about how to pray the Salah properly without making any mistakes, how to observe fasting without making any mistakes and so on? No. He just gave one simple advice: do not complicate things. Do not make things difficult for people. That's it. So that's the beauty of Islam. If you and I want to complicate things for ourselves, eventually we will break down. Eventually we'll get exhausted. And that's where a lot of us are having trouble. We feel good one day, we just try to do things, and then we don't feel good the other day. We just stop doing things. And this hadith is in Sahih Bukhari, hadith number 4344 and 4345. In another hadith, when Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was once walking on the road, he saw a man who was walking, an elderly person, walking. He couldn't even walk. So he's taking small steps because he couldn't walk, and he was supported by 2 young men who were his sons. So this old man, very old man who couldn't even walk, he's walking with the support of 2 young men. The Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, although he was a president, he wouldn't just not care about things like this. We saw the previous hadith in which he just observed a rope hanging between the columns. Now he's observing an old man who is not able to walk, and he's trying to accomplish something. So he instead of just passing by without caring as a president, because he must have had a lot of things to care about, but still he stopped and he asked, Ma balu hadha, what's happening here? Then they said, this man had the niyyah of performing Hajj by his foot. Now he is not able to do because of his age, but yet he still wants to accomplish that. So that's why his children are helping him to perform what he had the niyyah for. Then Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that Allah is not in need of this old man torturing himself. Then he ordered him to take a ride to go to Hajj. Having a niyyah to go to Hajj is a good niyyah, but the way he wanted to accomplish, in spite of his inability to walk, was the problem there. So Rasulullah commanded him to take a ride to yet perform the Hajj. This hadith is in Sahih al-Bukhari, hadith number 1865. You don't even have to go that far of torturing ourselves physically. Even if it is something that we have to emotionally give up, even that Islam is paying attention to. In this hadith, we can see that. So when Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to send people to collect zakah from the regions that are part of the Islamic nation, once he sent Muad ibn Jabal to collect zakah from the Islamic parts of the nation. When he sent, he gave an advice to Muad, which is a beautiful advice. He said, فَإِيَّاكَ وَكَرَائِمَ أَمْوَالِهِمْ. When you collect the zakah from the cattle that they have, because when you have cattle, you give zakah as a cattle. So when you collect the zakah as a cattle, do not take the best of their cattle, because some people may have some cattle that they are growing as a pet. They may have some particular affection towards. So you as a zakat collector, you cannot demand for a person to give a particular animal. That is a violation of the person's right. Look how minute details that Islam is paying attention to. So Islam is even paying attention to giving up the emotional aspects of a person. So that is where I want you and I to pay attention to, right? I want you and I to keep stretching our level of ibadah, that is for sure. But while we are stretching, I want you and I not to overstretch. We have to take the baby steps, but consistently, such that we can keep on stretching. So that should be our goal. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد وهو على كل شيء قدير. I would like to remind yourself and myself at the end of every Ramadan of the reminder that I was just sharing, because this is important. This is a key timeline, a key timing that we are in coming out of Ramadan, because when you come out of Ramadan, you are experiencing that going, the level of Iman going down, right? You are on the downhill of Iman, right? So you have to think of yourself biking on a hill, right? During the month of Ramadan, we were biking, we're putting a lot of effort going to the uphill. Now we are coming down from the uphill to the downhill. So as you're coming downhill, you don't have to pedal your bike. Your bike is the auto motion. It's the inertia is taking care of the work for you, right? So that is the level of that is the duration we are in. So as we are going down the downhill, now is the good time. As you are hitting the flat surface, now is a good time to start pedaling, because once you hit the flat surface, you need to put a lot more effort to start pedaling. So this is the right time for you and I to start engaging ourselves in doing some extra ibadah, but do it in a consistent but smaller incremental steps so that we can stick with it. this particular Ramadan that we just had was a lot more unusual. It's actually more unusual than last year. Why? Because even the beginning of Ramadan, one of my khutbahs, I mentioned that when we finish the Ramadan, we are going to miss some people from our lives, right? That happens every year due to the natural, the death that occurs to people. But this particular Ramadan, though, the increasing case in COVID in India and from the killing of Palestinian Muslims and so many other activities that were happening around the world, many of us lost the people that we knew, right? So if anything, this should be a wake-up call for you and I. So there is not many Ramadan for us to keep the hopes that we can keep banking the good deeds, like how we have been doing every Ramadan, right? We have been doing some ibadah just in the month of Ramadan, then forget about it the rest of the year, hoping that we'll get another Ramadan, we'll do the same cycle. That even if that is possible, this should be a wake-up call for us that there is not many Ramadan left for you and I, right? Because the world is different. The world we are living now is totally different. So that from that perspective too, I want you and I to take the action starting today. Just think to yourself, what is possible for you? Even if you plan to memorize just one ayah every weekend, let's say, how hard that is going to be. One ayah, memorize one ayah every weekend. Take the smallest surah that you haven't memorized yet. How hard is that? Just take that baby step, for example. Just do that. Or start praying some extra nafil prayer or some extra sunnah prayer, or start fasting some sunnah fastings, the Mondays or Thursdays, whatever is possible for you. See, the goal here is to take the baby step. Don't overstretch. You might think that I did it in Ramadan, I can do it again, but that's not how it's going to work. If you overstretch yourself for a longer period of time, eventually you're going to break and give up. So that is the suggestion that you and I give, and it's also the Sunnah of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It is not only Sunnah of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Interestingly, it also aligns with the studies that several worldly scholars have done. Just to give a couple of examples, there is a very popular book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. That is one example. There are a few other books that I can mention right now. One other book is called The Power of Full Engagement. So these are the books that are focused on how to increase one's productivity, how productive people are being productive. So when these worldly scholars, when they do research, they come down to that the secret of the person who is being productive is they're taking baby steps. They're establishing positive rituals. You have to establish positive habits. I know today we have developed a lot of wrong habits. We cannot stop ourselves from going to the Facebook app, from going to the WhatsApp app. Those are the kind of negative habits that we have developed. Why not create a positive habit starting today? Try going to Quran app. If anything, just go to Quran app every half an hour. Just go open it and close it. If you don't even read it, just open it and close it. Just develop that habit. So try to counter the negative habits that you and I have developed by establishing some positive habits starting today. So that's the goal I want you and I to live with. I want you and I to think about it and start implementing it starting today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the life to live the life that is fulfilling for the creation that He has created to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only. And may He make us do good deeds as much as we can, but consistently, while with the intention of pleasing the Creator Himself only. Wa akhir dawana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wa aqimus salam.